Right guys, so what I'm going to show you now really quickly is how to import a sprite. We've probably been over this, how to put it in the scene and how to kind of move it around and just play with it a little bit. So as we've done, right click, import new asset, grab your sprite, there's my sprite. So we've got it in here, we can then press F2, give us a second, press F2, rename it, so this could be SPR, which is what we use to kind of show a file name of a sprite, so we don't have an object that's called the same thing as a sprite. SPR, sprite1. Press enter. As we can see, it's changed up here. So now what we could do, we can drag it straight into the scene, bob it in there, and as we can see, it's quite big at the minute, my sprite. Your sprite might be a different size, so if you go into scale in the top right, you might want to change this down. This could be 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. Obviously, if we keep one, I don't know, say this is at 2, we can see that the sprite's really stretched. We don't want that because as we can see, that looks awful. So 0.5, we've got a sprite in here. 0.5, we can drag it, move it around. Or if you want to do it a little bit, there's 2 or 3 different ways of doing this. So we've got the positions up here. So if I want to move it to -6, or -2, or I wanted to change this to 1. As we can see, the sprite's still moving around, but we know specifically where that is right now. Obviously, because it's 2D, we don't need to worry about the Z. It's not actually going to do anything because that's the other axis. We don't need to worry about that. Rotation, yet again, I might want to change this to 80. Looks weird, you know. This one's at 80. It's going to look bizarre on most of them, apart from on the Z-axis, because that's the one that's turning it the right way. We can then also tint the colour. So if we go in here, I might want to change this to have a red tint, but normally you don't really want to. I'm just going to leave it as white for the time being. I was referring to prefabs at one point, because we made our prefabs folder. If we go into the prefabs folder, what we can do now, so we've got this sprite here, which is obviously an instance of the sprite we've created. So we could change this to, instead of being sprite1, if we change it to PRFB, which is the term for prefab, press enter, we can see that it's changed to prefab. As you can see, it's black at the minute. The text is black. So if we drag this into our prefabs, we can see that it's changed to blue. So if we watch this now, if I now turn this to red, like I did before, the prefab in here is still white until I click apply. And what you can do with apply is, as we can see, this has gone red now. So you can edit a sprite or a prefab in here and apply it to all of the other prefabs. So if I change this back to white and I duplicate it a few times by pressing Control D, and I change one to red. So I've changed this one here to red, and I'll move this out of the way so we can see all the other ones here are still white. And then I go back to this one, I click apply, and all of these I click, oh, I'm going to do it one at a time, I click revert. So what this does is this reverts it to whatever the prefab in here is currently doing. So all of our sprites are now red. And this is a prefab system, so you can quickly and easily edit all of the prefabs in a scene by changing the main one here. So yet again, if I change this to blue now, these all change with this initial one here. And that is a simple import, put into scene, move around, scale, rotation, movement, and a simple prefab system. So that is basically how that works.